Hey guys, I've got this great idea.
Matt, I'm tired and I want to go home. Besides, Halloween Havoc is about to start.
Look, you have been picking houses all night long. Now it's my turn.
Yeah, that's only because we ended up with 2 pieces of last year's Christmas fruitcake from the last one you picked.
Yeah!
Whatever house you pick better be good.
Good? You want good? This will be better than good. This one will be great. And I want that. Guys, babies or something? This place ain't that bad.
Well, look at it, Matt. It looks like it's haunted. Let's just go home and watch Halloween Havoc and forget all about this one. We've got plenty of candy already.
Well, who cares about candy? I came here to see something scary. Cool.
I think I hear Mom calling.
Sisters, what a pain. Who brought her?
Hi, kids.
Wow, it's Tony Schiavone. Hey, shouldn't you be at the pay-per-view?
I have a helicopter waiting to pick me up in a few minutes.
What's that smell, Tony?
It's my wife. She's baking cookies. Would you kids like to have some?
What kind are they?
Only a kind a mother could make. Why don't you come inside and have a bite of her cookies?
We have enough treats already. We came here to see something scary.
You want to see something scary? I'll show you something scary. Come inside. So, you kids want a little fright in your night, huh?
Gee, Mrs. Schiavone, how did you get up there so fast?
Don't you kids know? All things are possible on All Hallows Eve. Frightening, chilling things like spin the wheel, make the deal. Just one haunting spin will lock Cactus Jack and Vader in combat when it lands on one of its many ghoulish, haunting matches.
That's not gonna be scary. If you can't come up with something better than that, we are leaving. Okay. I've had it, all right?
You guys want to be really scared?
Get a load of this.
Matches in the history of the sport. Vader, Cactus Jack, spin the wheel, make the deal. But right now, let's get down to the ring to Tony Schiavone and Jesse the Body Ventura.
This is the Pro Wrestling Reflection Podcast with your host, the Professor Chalbello Veracruz.
What a run!
Mr. Wonderful Tommy Wonder.
And I will take the powers of those that have no fear!
And the prodigal one, JB.
The cream, yeah. The cream of the crop.
Now it's time to go back in time in the time machine.
The American dream! Dusty Rhodes! Too sweet!
The living legend, Bruno Sammartino.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man! Woo! Look at this! He's I don't believe it! Trick or treat, Reflectionites. Trick or treat, Magnificent 7. Trick or treat, Elite 8. Trick or treat, Naughty 9. Trick or treat, Tenacious 10. Or maybe the Terrible 10. I don't know. I'm just going on a diatribe, Reflectionites. But anyway, you know, we're getting close to that month, to that day of October 31st. The day of Halloween, the day we trick-or-treat, the day that we wear our costumes. You know, people are going to be dressed like Donald Trump. People are going to be dressed like Joe Biden. People are going to be dressed like Hillary Rodham Clinton, Satan herself. People are going to be dressed like Osama bin Laden. That'd be me. But anyway, neither here nor there. But I wanted to give the Reflectionites, the wrestling fans, the nostalgic fans a little trick-or-treat. So we will decide. Is this episode of the PWR podcast here at the PWR Networks.podbean.com a trick or a treat? I'm on the fence here. I'm an independent, so I'm not going to say nothing here. I'm not going to say nothing. Nada. NATO. Nothing. But that is for you, Magnificent 7. That is for you, the PWCites. That is for you, the big Vitoites out there on the Patreons, on the Podbeans, to decide for yourself if this particular episode of the PWR podcast, which we will talk about Halloween Havoc 1993, is a trick or a treat. But first, I must introduce myself because I am vain like that. I have vanity issues. You know, I sin all the time. I am that man. I am that magnanimous man. I am that scholarly man. But most importantly, Reflectionites, I am the glorious man. The only objective man. That's not a costume. The only objective man in the IWC. The only objective man in this podcast punditry. The only objective man in this political fan base. Your friend of mine, the Professor Chabel Veracruz, and I'm not here alone. It's a treat to be with this gentleman right here. It is a treat to be with the man that is the iron stomach one. It is a treat that he is a conservative liberal, a liberal conservative. He is the idiot of the dum-dum duos. Your friend and mine, Mr. Wonderful, Tommy Strong, a.k.a. the Tommy Wonder himself. And I must ask you this question. You know, before you talk about anything about the matches, the people here, what do you think, first and foremost? What is your vote? Is this episode going to be a trick for the Reflectionites or a treat for the Reflectionites?
A trick. I'm assuming trick is the lesser of the two.
Well, it's your opinion.
It's pretty bad, and as we go through it, I'll explain why I feel that way.
Okay.
Right off the rip, It's funny because I've talked about this before when we did Starrcade, and, you know, I remember, well, I clearly didn't watch this one because right when it came on, I'm like, okay, we have a company down south who calls the WWE a circus, sideshow, a clown, all these characters. I've long talked about speech with Vader and Sid versus Sting and Bulldog as one of the worst vignettes in the history of vignettes, the boat blowing up, Sid Vader. the Mountain of Fear, White Castle Fear, whatever the hell, Sting and Vader with the helicopter. The Big Show running down Hogan in the jungle and choking him out and saying, "Hogan, when I get my hands on you," that Dungeon of Doom stuff. And
you
then
are giving iconic moments in wrestling lore. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, they're all cheese, and if anybody even dares defend those and still calls the WWF a clown show, I saw the opening of this for the first time, where basically Tony Schiavone is a child predator, and he's trying to get kids in his house, and then turns into a monster to eat them. And I'm like, who okayed this? And then the way he looks at the camera when he shuts the door, like, yeah, I got me some ass in here right now. It was brutal. On top of the acting was terrible. Once the show started,
are you saying that Tony Schiavone was R. Kelly before R. Kelly was cool?
I'm pissing on these kids. Yes, I am saying that.
There you go.
But him and Jesse were okay. Once it started, it felt like a wrestling show, which is funny because I just digressed, because the reason I brought this part up is when I talked about Starrcade, the first one we reviewed, the Starrcade 1 or 2 or 3, whatever one we did first, and I was like, this felt like WCW Saturday Night that just happened to have a main event of Flair versus Dusty. The opening match of this pay-per-view, which is supposed to be a big deal, is Harlem Heat and Evod. Before he was Evod, he was the Equalizer, who looked like Barry Windham with Kevin Sullivan's head.
Right.
Those three teaming together, which is the most pairing ever. I would see them doing a racist storyline with Equalizer versus Harlem Heat before teaming them up. And then their opponent is Ice Train, who didn't he end up being their cousin or some shit? It was Harlem Heat's cousin for an angle, or was that Ahmed Johnson?
That was Ahmed Johnson.
Ice Train had some kind of feud with him. I just don't remember what it was. And he's teaming up with
Charlie Norris.
No, he's the one I remember. I don't even remember who the other guy was.
Shockmaster.
How did I forget that? This was like Sunday main event. This wasn't even a Saturday night show match. And wouldn't it have made more sense on paper?
Wait. Time out. Flag on the play here. But that's a warm-up for all the people at the Lakefront Arena in New Orleans to get the start
match that shouldn't have made the pay-per-view, because it's just like, hey, we got 6 guys we got nothing for. But the reason I wanted to bring them up is before we start recording, I said they're Kane and Cole. They're not even Booker T and Stevie Ray here.
Right.
Which is funny because they had that twin tag team that looked like a couple of Stings with Brock Lesnar's haircut, or
the Cole twins.
And they were Kent and Keith Cole. Kane and Cole, Keith and Kent Cole. It's just they're all over the place here, man. This is
wait.
Before they went up to the call up.
Hold up, as we say here at the PWR podcast. To be fair, Kane and Cole are spelled with a K's, and Kent and Keith Cole were the C-O-L-E. So I'm just gonna go ahead on your diatribe.
Keith and Kent were with K's though. They weren't.
No, their first names are K's, but their last name started with a C. Harlem Heats were K's.
Right.
But go ahead, CW. Keep going. Yeah.
It just was odd. The whole thing started so horribly with that vignette, and all I thought is, A, I clearly didn't see this until yesterday, and B, is this a case of if you can't beat them, join them? Because these are the people who said the WWE was a circus and then had that.
Well, you know what? It's funny that you say that, because we could actually talk about this before we even we'll delve into the high-profile matches here at the PWR podcast at PWSL Networks at podme.com. Shameless plug for all the Reflectionites out there. So let's talk about the business in general, TW, before we even talk about Halloween Havoc. Now, you're already saying it's a trick, so I'm kind of leaning towards you. But anyway, 1993, or Naughty 3, as we would say, it is a trick of a year for professional wrestling. Let's look at it on the grand scale of everything, TW. Follow me here.
Yep.
Now, let's look at it from WWF or WWE against WCW. The competition, all this stuff. Now, remember, Hulk Hogan is now gone from WWF. He is, quote-unquote, retired from wrestling. So now WWF is kind of rebranding themselves in the next generation mold. They're going smaller, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels are kind of leading the charge and all that stuff. Diesel's not there yet. Razor Ramon hasn't, got the people behind him just yet. You know what I mean? I'm just saying the core is not fully there. The real core. I didn't mean to bore you, but I'm trying to make it fun. But anyway, the core of WWE is Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, and The Undertaker. Let's just say that. Now, I look on the other side with WCW in 1993. Let's forget about the management, TW. We know how mismanaged that WCW was. Ted Turner loved WCW. We got that part. But everybody in TBS or TNT, the Turner Network people, just did not know how to operate WCW. We can agree on that one. But
1,000%.
goddamn, within this damn roster, within this damn pay-per-view, even though you're making fun of the first match, which was a filler match, which was a heater, get the people going match, but look at the roster in comparison to WWE. You got Big Van Vader, international superstar from Japan. You got Cactus Jack, hardcore legend, international superstar. You got the icon or the franchise here, Sting. You got Sid Vicious, who last year co-main evented WrestleMania 8 against Hulk Hogan. You got a legend coming back into WCW fold in the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. You got one of the top 5 antagonists in wrestling in 1993 in Ravishing Rick Rude. You got an upstart in the Natural Dustin Rhodes. You got untapped potential in Stunning Steve Austin. Goddamn, TW. Next time, get the rapper going. But anyway, neither here nor there. But looking at the roster, WCW is stacked against the WWF. But again, besides management, I'm just look at it from the fans' eyes. WCW should be kicking WWE's ass in 1993. What say you, TW?
Well, 2 things. 3 things. The mismanagement, obviously. They got these guys, but they don't know what to do with them.
Right.
It's the greatest American hero. He's got the suit, but he don't have the instruction manual. 2, some of these guys ain't shit yet. Like, yeah, you can look back and say they had Steve Austin and they had Dustin Rhodes and they had even Sid, for that matter. Sid was good as Sid Justice, but he was better as Psycho Sid. I think we could agree. I think Sid Justice didn't get enough time to be good. And by the time they figured out he should be a bad guy, not a good guy, he left. So he comes back as Psycho Sid, main event WrestleMania against Undertaker, way better than him main eventing against Hogan, right? So you got that. And what was my third thing?
He was on
mismanagement. Those guys aren't there yet. And then I guess those are the only 2 things. This is mismanagement. There was a third thing, but I got sidetracked thinking, well, I got to do the mismanagement thing. And also, people are loyal. So they're already – so that's what I was going to say. Some of these guys were, in hindsight, stars, but not at the time. Even Dustin Rhodes, because Dustin's not really shit until he becomes Gold Dust. Now he's –
I get you. I'm just saying, but you got – untapped potential in Dustin Rhodes and Steve Austin. You got Sting as your friend.
Machine, they would have watched it.
Right. That's what I'm just saying.
Those guys before they were stars. But Stunning Steve, I love that dude from the second I saw his ass. I was like, dude's a star. And literally, I've said it on here before. The very first match I ever won in a wrestling ring, I won, and they crowned me Northern Ontario Wrestling light heavyweight champion. I did 3 jumps in the air and then dropped down to my knee and kissed my bicep and held the belt up because I watched Stunning Steve Austin do that when he won the U.S. title. So, and not Steve Austin, I watched Stunning Steve when he had long hair and he put in that nasty ponytail and all that. And then I went back and saw old matches of him in World Class, and I think he teamed with Rod Price. We talked about them before, but I always liked him. But even in this show, he's wearing the Hollywood Blondes gear. So he's not even – he's a tag team that's super over that he's booked as a singles guy, and Pillman's nowhere to be found other than
they broke up.
And why was he still wearing the Hollywood Blondes gear? They said he's part of the tag team.
Mismanagement. They really just mismanage what everything is, because that's a great example. I mean, it's an easy out, Reflectionites, that we could always say mismanagement, but I'm trying to look at it from the lens of a fan, because if you really look, like I said, 1993, like WWE is, rebranding themselves on the other side. And again, the technical side with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels leading the way. And then, of course, you got Undertaker with the larger-than-life comic book character, which is still, is still over.
A guy they got from WCW.
Absolutely. And
Razor
again,
Ramon, a guy they got from WCW who was the Diamond Stud before he was Scott Hall before that.
And then Diesel, a guy they got from WCW who's starting to get into his own over there. That's why I said they weren't there yet as a core, because the core was actually 3. But here you have a stacked roster that, people be like, why didn't WCW, at least in 1993, overtake WWF?
At least compete.
Or at least, yeah, you're right, at least compete. I mean, you have Halloween Havoc in New Orleans, Lakefront Arena. You got 6,000 screaming fans, give or take. And again, I thought of you when I saw this pay-per-view, because you kept always talking about that fisheye. That's one thing that WCW, no matter what, we can all, I think any fan, any Reflectionite, and even you and I, we hate Kevin Dunn for a lot of reasons. But Kevin Dunn, I'm not giving Kevin Dunn any credit. I'm just saying we hate Kevin Dunn. But I'm just saying WCW, the production people in WCW, especially in 92 and on, they really honed on their production values, cost cutting, whatever they did. It worked, TW. I mean, that fisheye lens, it was 6,000, but it looked like there was 60,000 there. What's saying about the way the production value, was improving? Because, again, in the 80s of the NWA, and then it turned into WCW, it was grungy, it was dark, and all this stuff. And then in the 90s, when Ted Turner was trying to put a little money into it, he had Kay Allen Fry as an executive vice president. He had Bill Watts as an executive vice president. And then, of course, in 94, he got it right. He hit a home run with Eric Bischoff. So what say you about, the improvements of WCW behind the scenes?
That's funny, because watch any NWA thing. It's that they show the audience with nothing there, and then that old-ass font comes up that just says NWA, the tired logo, or the N. It was like a bleep, like a heartbeat or whatever, which I like that logo, by the way, the NWA all forming one letter. And it just looked like ABC Wild World of Sports. Apparently I'm going to talk about that every week on here. It just looked, which again, gave it an 80s gritty sports feel. But yeah, that fisheye lens, to see that in person, that was Great American Bash 95 when I was in O'Hara Arena. They tore that down last year. O'Hara Arena in Dayton, Ohio. When I'm in the back, I'm looking at the TV screen, and I'm like, damn, this place is huge. And then I went through the curtain and sat in the audience to watch matches, and I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, this is like a local hockey rink. Like, I could play in this building. And very impressive with that fisheye lens did. And it was Scott DeMore that told me what it was. I'm like, Scott, why does it look so huge out here or in here? But when you go out there, he's like, fisheye lens or whatever he said. And the production, just like even how the Super Brawl, how it came on the screen and all that kind of stuff, I would say they went from, this is going to age me and you're going to be aged right along with me when you know the reference. It went from 8-bit Nintendo, maybe even Atari, to Neo Geo graphics. Like it just the Dragon's Lair game versus Dig Dug. So,
and Neo Geo was supposed to be like 32-bit, and that looked kind of ugly. But anyway, I get what the reference you're saying, because, it went from 8-bit, or it went from 8-bit to 16-bit with Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis. It was just it was a vast improvement of the presentation, because, WWF was already doing it in the 80s. That's where I'll give Kevin Dunn and his production people credit. But in the 90s, WCW kind of like, again, Ted Turner put a little bit of money into the product to make it look professional.
I'll bet Chris Jericho wished Kevin Dunn was charged of that bump he took off that cage.
Well, that's true, because then his arm wouldn't have been fucked up as it was. But anyway, neither here nor there, reflection. So you talked about it before we even started this, and because I asked our executive producer, Big Ray, to actually play the Reflectionites, the intro of WCW Halloween Havoc. So I think we have to, because you actually in your diatribe kind of said it, you know, there was a point in WCW, and this was the Bill Watts era, and this is still kind of Bill Wattish, but we don't know if he was fired by this time, but he might have been there in theory, but he was already gone. You know, he was probably just picking up a paycheck no matter what. So he was there, but he wasn't physically there. You know, he's like a man who's like he gave his 2 weeks notice, but he's still there and just trying to like, I'm just counting down the days. But anyway, neither here nor there. But you said it yourself. I mean, Bill Watts wanted WCW to go back into the 80s, so to speak, in the professional wrestling competition mold. But you just said it right here. The intro, Tony Schiavone dressed as Dracula.
No. Oh yeah, the intro. Yeah. In the building, he's dressed like Jesse Ventura.
No. We'll talk about that a little bit. But in the intro, he's dressed like Dracula, and then he's getting the little kids in. This is WWE, like you said. This is sports entertainment. This is like, not taking professional wrestling seriously. I have no problem with that. They were trying to be funny, but when you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, TW, does it come off a little corny to you, or or do you give it A for effort? What say you, TW?
I'm not even going to give it A for effort. A for effort's the first time you do it, but when you keep doing it, your effort sucks too, because like gobbledygooker is probably the first thing that comes to mind for me for a miss by the WWE. But it wasn't this well thought out pomp and circumstance shit. It was, they just thought they'd have a mascot, right? Poor Hector Guerrero. By the way, he was Lasertron. He was one of my favorite guys on the NWA. But they were shooting for something different here. This wasn't. And so, okay, I'll give you a vignette. And I think they did one recently on wrestling. But Ultimate Warrior and Jake the Snake, where Warrior's trying to get Snake over his fears of whatever. That shit was well done. No pun intended, Kevin Dunn. It was well done. And you literally felt like Jake the Snake buried the Warrior up to his neck and left his ass in the desert. So it wasn't over-the-top music. It wasn't over-the-top sound effects like, this shit was just next level too far, right? And I get it. They're just like, we're outdoing them. And no, you're not outdoing them. You're making them look better because yours is so all over the place. Like, I'm dead serious, man. The Oz thing before you come out, and then Tom Zink takes the L. It's like a job guy already in the ring. And then he did it for someone else. We just did a show not long ago where Z-Man was the other guy's debut who took forever to come up. Vader. And then he got whooped in 2 seconds. So all that stuff is like, the thing, like when it came on live, all I thought was, did they just play that shit in the audience? Like, did they play it on the TV and the people there had to watch that? Or do they not know that happened until they got home and rented the Coliseum home video, whatever WCW version is? But the problem is, I will say this, one of the worst ones for WWE, but at the same time, what you got out of it. So I guess the ends justify the means. The Macho Man wedding, where he gets, the Snake is in the gift box, but ends up giving you Macho Man back as a wrestler. Like, the Warrior's like, yeah, let him wrestle. And you got the Ultimate Maniacs out of it, right? So, yeah, that was cheesy. That was corny. The Saturday night main event Halloween parties they would have in between matches was cheesy and corny, but it wasn't overproduced. It was just like they just threw a camera on and said, go be idiots, and they went and bet, well, we're idiots, right? This shit. And then he turns into the dragon thing at the end, and these kids are running for their life, and the door opens, and I'm expecting Sting or RoboCop to be standing there to save them, and they just go to the arena. Like, fuck it, them kids are dead. And now here we are. Here's Halloween Havoc. Let's show you Ice Train, Kane Cole, Uncle Tucker, Fred, and the Equalizer. And, you didn't even let me talk about that damn Charlie Norris. What? How's that guy even signed, let alone on camera on a pay-per-view in an opening match? Is that dude? Does he have pictures of somebody? Because I don't even remember. Indie
sensation Charlie Norris. He was taking advantage.
He had the nicest headdress. He was terrible. He was built like a man on hospice. He was terrible. All he was a caricature of every Native American wrestler ever.
Well, he's a Greek guy playing a role, so what's the problem? I mean, playing the Native American.
Horrible. I'm like, how do I not know who this guy is?
Okay, so I I get what you're saying. Again, with your diatribe, you know, this was overproduced with Tony Schiavone as the Dracula. White Castle of Fear was over.
Why? Wouldn't it be better if Bobby Heenan's the one trying to eat kids, not Tony, Mr. Goody Two Shoes Schiavone?
He wasn't there yet. He didn't get there till he didn't get there till November.
Well, then Jesse.
Again, you know what? I
get what they did at the end. He pulls his mask off. It really isn't Tony. So the whole gist is, hey, you thought it was Tony. That's why you came in. Except for Tony was fucking creepy before he got him to come in the house. It just was.
Are you wait? You know that there's certain Reflectionites on the YouTubes, and sometimes Reflectionites always call your biased out, you know, against AEW. But we're not going into the AEW thing. But you know, you gave the passes to some WWE vignettes, but you won't give a pass to Tony Schiavone. You won't give a pass to White Castle.
That was
of Fear.
one of the worst things I've ever seen in wrestling. Easy.
White Castle of Fear?
No.
Oh.
Schiavone is the damn child molester getting kids in his house on Halloween. It's terrible. What's our number one question? Could you do that in 2021? No.
No.
That dude and his red van would be shut down. There was no way that would air in 2021. None.
What if it was?
And if I'm proven wrong, when NXT does Halloween Havoc, if they have a vignette like that, open the show, I will take a shot at NXT.
Oh, they will have some kind of thing with Dexter Lumis in some kind of Halloween themed vignette. But anyway, neither here nor there. So let's get into this card, if you will. We're gonna Reflectionize. We're gonna focus on the high profile matches. You know, we're not gonna talk about Ice Train. Ice Train is not worth our time. We gave Ice Train even more respect than
worth
it
more
needed to
Charlie
be.
Norris.
But you know what? Since we were talking about the stacked roster,
Ice Train is Hobbs.
Well, you know, Hobbs he's the Dick Clark of wrestling because Hobbs just morphed himself into Hobbs. But anyway, let's focus on one of the matches, and we call it the untapped potential match here. We got the natural Dustin Rhodes, and we got stunning Steve Austin. This was for the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship TW. This went on for about 15 minutes, so, you know, I know that you kind of fell asleep here and there, so I get that part here. Let's look at it from the standpoint you said. Dustin Rhodes is being shot to the moon by his father, the American Dwayne, Dusty Rhodes. So I just want to focus on that for just a second because Dusty Rhodes debuts in WCW in 91, and really, once he got into WCW after his role in WWF and all that stuff, you know, fighting Ted DiBiase to a 10-minute draw, you know, he got his name, you know, noticed. He got his name noticed because of that situation. So now he goes into WCW to hone his craft and develop some street cred, if you will. But he didn't develop street cred. It was nepotism, in my opinion. Of course, because when you got the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, on your side, you know, he's being, I don't want to say being gifted the tag team titles, gifted the television title, or gifted the U.S. title, but from 91 to here, 93, multiple time champion in every which way, tag team, U.S. TV champion, TW. If this is 2020 Wonder, if there was podcasts, if there was, you know, YouTubes, people be like drawing like a lynch mob towards Dustin Rhodes. They wouldn't even like this. They would actually it would hurt
get
Dustin Rhodes.
Rocky Die or Roman Reigns. So.
Yeah, that's what I mean. What say you, TW? I mean, am I right about that assessment?
Here's what I think. There's a couple reasons why I think Dusty does it. One, Dusty's over. So
of course,
if you're gonna have some nepotism, it might as well be Dusty's, or Flair. Flair had a son that could go. David couldn't. But Dusty doesn't have the greatest body, but he looks like Barry Windham. He looks like Magnum TA, partly because he dresses like him, but that tall, lanky build. Like Magnum TA was built like the freaking warrior, so he's different. And even though it's 91, 92, 93, Dusty's still trying to find the next Magnum TA. Like, Vince is looking for the next Hogan. Dusty's looking for the next Magnum, which, by the way, there's always been rumors that Vince thought Magnum was the next Hogan. So people liked Magnum TA. So I think by putting belts on them, because back then belts did mean something. They don't mean shit now.
Of course.
But they meant something back then. Like, if you had the belt, you had clout. You know, like people thought, oh, wow, this guy's a champ. Other than the six-man titles, which are terrible. But so to put it on there, it's almost like he's legitimizing him, right? I mean, and I don't even remember his run other than that 10-minute draw with DiBiase. So he might be trying to wash the stink of WWE off of him by putting him down there and putting him over and everything like that. He kind of could wrestle. And I think in his eyes, Dusty, but a better-looking version of Dusty. Like, Dusty had to have self-esteem issues for his look, right? The dude's got the birthmark. He's overweight, but he had charisma by the gallon, right? So maybe he's thinking, hey, if this guy's half the guy I am, but looks like that, he's going to be over. And I don't think it ever happened. I think that little teenage girls cheered for him and like, woohoo! Even when he teamed with Wyndham, they had like a Rock and Roll Express, not the level, but the same kind of fan base. And then the second one, who do you trust more as the promoter than yourself? Your son. It's Von Erich. You know, Kerry, Kevin, and David and Mike aren't going anywhere. They're not going to stiff you. They're not going to hold you up for money. They're going to show up. They're going to defend the belt. They're going to, they're going to be your guy who you can trust to put those belts on. And even though WCW had a ton of belts, by this time they just had TV World US, and then somewhere there was a cruiserweight title, not like it was a Nitro, but it was
light heavyweight
somewhere.
Light heavyweight.
Yeah, Denny King or whatever. But anyway, I just think they went all in on Dustin. They went all in. I think they liked his look. And I think down there, you couldn't do that in New York. In New York or Detroit or Chicago is going to give a shit about a lanky blonde cowboy, right? Maybe Magnum TA, but I don't think they would have had Magnum TA. I think they would have gave him some kind of cool gimmick when he got to WWE. Like, perfect example, a guy that looked like Magnum TA was Scott Hall when he was Gator Scott Hall. This dude comes up there and he's Razor Ramon. I'm like, that's a complete opposite of a cowboy. He's a Mexican, right? So, Cuban. But
Cuban.
I think he just trusted Dustin, and I think he was hell-bent to leather. That's a Judas Priest reference, hell-bent for leather, to prove that his son was going to be a star, and he did get proven right. But as Goldust, if you had him in AEW, it's just, he's a nothing burger to me there. I don't even... he's Dustin, but he paints his face like Goldust. Like, pick one, buddy. I see you're half painted and all that, Darby Allin Jr., but just pick one. Be Dustin, be Blue Dust, whatever you want to be.
No, he picked it. He picked his name. It's Natural Dust. That's it. No, I'm just joking. It's not. To me, it's Natural Dust.
He's never on TV, but when I do see him, he's taking a shot at WWE, which is weird because they let him out early so he could go be with his brother. Like, he's another one of those guys who shouldn't have sour grapes. And so, but
maybe
here,
that's for TV. That's for TV purposes. That's for social media purposes.
I'll bet you the second he gets off camera, he calls Triple H. I'm sorry, man. I got to do it for business, right? I got to do it. But and the match is okay. There's one little spot that's pretty awesome. Dustin.
Well, wait. Before we get to the spot, let's talk about his opponent, the challenger here, represented by Colonel Robert. Colonel Robert Parker is stunning Steve Austin. Now, here, this is the dichotomy, TW, so I'm going to explain it a little bit. Yes, he is still part of the Hollywood Blondes in some way, shape, or form, but because of Robert Parker, he's the wedge in Jesse Ventura's favorite tag team, and he's trying to promise them that he's going to take them to the moon and all that stuff, like Cameron Grimes. He's taking them to titles. He's taking them to $1 million contracts and all that stuff. So this is proof positive that Steve Austin is getting a shot at the United States Heavyweight Champion. And, of course, a year before that, he was with the Dangerous Alliance, the television champion. And again, you liked him with the long blonde hair. He shortens his hair here, TW. So he's not stone cold yet. He's not the extreme superstar. He's trying to find himself, TW. I would say in 1993. What say you, TW? And then we'll talk about the spots. That's Dexter Loomis, yes.
Hey, he's awesome, but he's still wearing the Hollywood. I didn't understand why he was going. Then I'm trying to think, is this where he won the U.S. title? I'm like, no, because he had long hair when he won it. So I don't even think they mentioned that he's a former U.S. champion in this match. They just keep talking about he's a Hollywood Blonde, former tag team champion, whatever, and all that. But I got to talk about this damn spot. It was awesome.
Go ahead now. Go ahead.
The golden rule in wrestling when you get trained is you don't get up off your ass. You turn to your knees and you stand up for two reasons. One, it's easier on your body. And two, in a wrestling match, if you were getting up from your ass in a street fight, you would be put right back down on your ass because it's such an awkward way to stand up. And he's trying to pull Dustin up, and it just looks like a botch. Like the whole time I'm like, oh, come on, Steve, that's a bad look. What are you doing? What are you doing? But then Dustin slingshots him from that. So I'm like, oh, okay, it was intentional. But lands on his back. Austin uses the momentum to go up the rope and then drop an elbow on Dustin on the ground. And like even Jesse was like, that was a beautiful move. Like he was probably like, wow, like you never saw it coming. And it was a terrible camera angle. And I wish they would have showed another angle of it so you could see the form, because it looked like he almost did the headstand. Who does it in modern wrestling where they get thrown to the corner and they do the headstand and then they come back off of it and do, or even like the handspring elbow from Tajiri where they hit the rope and they're upside down and they he went to the turnbuckle and went up like that and then came back down with an elbow drop, and it was just a thing of beauty. And other than that, it was a snore fest of a match. It was like you're thinking on paper this is going to be great, it's going to be Steamboat Savage like, but it was really clunky. And then
even the finish was clunky.
The finish was horrible because they never even explain it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Austin won the match. He won the title, and because Dustin didn't kick out, his shoulders were on the mat, and then the referee kind of botched it. I don't know if the referee didn't tell Dustin to kick out or whatever, and then Steve Austin is looking for the belt. Like, he didn't know where the belt was. Right. And the funny thing that got to me was then once Dustin, and side note here, Reflectionites, I know a lot of people because in 2021 Wonder TW, I just want to say this. Multiple times in this pay-per-view, a lot of people won with the roll-up. I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people in 2020 Wonder TW, they go on the social media and, especially when Raw's on or SmackDown's on, they hate the roll-up win. But factor of winning a match. But anyway, neither here nor there. Can you hear me, TW? Am I there?
You froze up. I don't know if you were clear on your end, but on my end.
I'm clear on my end. Don't worry. You know how it is. Biden is messing with it.
But you said they don't like the roll-up, and then I didn't hear what you said after that. You froze up.
I'm just saying they don't like the roll-ups in 2021, but in 1993, in this particular pay-per-view, a big-time pay-per-view, certain wrestlers won with the roll-up. Just like
Dustin did pin him with the roll-up while he was looking for the belt.
Yes.
But the referee never explained why. He just said your foot was on the rope, and then Jesse kept saying, why'd you count three then? Why'd you count three? So it was almost like, what was the show we just did where the other referee came out, the ECW. He's like, no.
Oh, you mean
his foot was on the rope,
right.
but the own referee did it. The same guy that damn counted it was like, no, changed my mind. Foot was on the rope. It was just terrible.
I did not see the foot on the rope for Dustin.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go deep inside baseball. Do you know why that spot happened, even though they did not do it right?
Why did they do it?
Because later on in the night, there's a second referee for the main event, one of the main events, and they're basically showing the chaos of needing a second referee subtly in this match, except for that referee catches it. What would have been better, the surprise for when we talk about the match, is if that other referee would have came out and said, no, his foot was on the rope. You got to restart this, which would have gave him credibility for when he was doing the other match. But that's armchair booking.
Yeah, that is armchair booking, but also to remind Reflectionites, and I get where you're saying, that was the beauty of the 80s in NWA. When a referee missed a spot, senior referee Tommy Young would come out from the locker room and actually overturn a bad judgment call by a referee. And the fans go home happy. So this was not a fans go home happy. This just made no goddamn sense. And then the funny thing was Steve Austin finally found the belt. He knew where it was because he needed the belt to do his spot to hit Dustin Rhodes on top of his noggin and then continued this feud. But anyway, I call it a botch ending. What say you, TW? It was a botch ending?
It was drizzling shits, wasn't it? They didn't botch it because they did it. But they didn't explain it right. We need Robert Stack to do an Unsolved Mysteries episode on this. Say, hey, what happened here?
I totally get you, and I totally understand. So, I guess I call it a botch. You call it the drizzling shit.
It is a botch. It is. It was a botch.
You know what? No.
By the boys, it was a botch by production.
Okay, I was going to...
Dustin did what they were supposed to do. That's what I mean by it wasn't a botch.
Gotcha.
They They didn't AEW it. They didn't triple power bomb a guy it. They did their move, and the referee just, shit. I counted 3. And I will tell you this. There's a rule. Indies, I'm sure it applies to WWE and WCW at the time. If you're supposed to kick out and you don't, the referee is told to count the 3 count. Because otherwise, if the referee stops and doesn't count a 3 count and you're still pinned, it makes every referee ever look phony. Or
the referee gets fired. The referee will get fired.
Because they tell you, if he don't kick out, because here's what could happen. And in modern wrestling, AEW, NXT, even some of them TLC matches where there aren't pins, there's dudes that get hurt who might be dead or unconscious, and the guy pins them, and he ain't kicking out. That's not a bad thing. Even if it means we got a new champion when we shouldn't have a new champion.
But there's a reason.
Pinned Austin. Owen Hart should have pinned Austin, but he couldn't because of the kiss my ass stipulation, right? But you easily get out of that by saying he got injured, so he couldn't kiss your ass. And then when he comes back, Owen could make him double or nothing. You kiss my ass twice, and then Austin could win that way. But in hindsight, they were like, shit, we can't have Austin kissing my ass. He's got to beat me. But in hindsight, Owen should have pinned Austin.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. So I'll combine the two. We'll call it the drizzling botch for this match between Dustin Rhodes and stunning Steve Austin. Now, let's get into I guess we'll get into the high-profile matches here, TW. We got, I guess they called this the Battle of the Franchises, which made no sense, but I understood why. It was Sting versus, well, you like him as Sid Justice or you like him as Psycho Sid, but everybody loves him as Sid Vicious, TW. Again, represented by Colonel Rob Parker. He had a busy night here. But the Battle of the Franchises, again, when you look at it from this standpoint, Sting doesn't have a title. But again, the title of being the franchise of WCW, that's a big title. That's a big deal, especially this is Sting at a young age because, again, 1988, he was, he took Ric Flair to the draw and Clash of Champions won. 5 years later, 1993, he's the number 1 man in WCW with or without a belt. That's hands down. That's not debatable.
He's the guy that never left.
Right, the guy that never left, the guy that's
versus
loyal.
The guy who just came back.
That too. He's a heel, but no one loves to hate him. I mean, they love to hate him, but they just love him to death. That's the problem.
He has it, man. The dude has charisma. I can't explain it, but Sid has it in spades, man. There's something about the guy that you just gravitate him. He's got that Hogan charisma without the Hogan mouth. Because if that dude could have put it together and talked better, shit. He wouldn't have been at Halloween Havoc. He would have been at another WrestleMania for 10 more years. He would have been the undefeated streak.
Now, the funny thing, TW, is they could have went to a lot of parallels here, but they wanted to keep this straight as the Battle of the Franchise, or maybe Sid Vicious is calling Sting out and wants to take the franchise title tag away from him, and he wants to be the guy. But Halloween 1990, TW, they fought each other for the WCW Heavyweight Championship. So you could build off of that, but they didn't. So you kind of have a
They mentioned it in passing. They said, I think it was in the same venue.
No, that was in Chicago in 90.
You know what? They did say in Chicago. They said it was the same pay-per-view, but in Chicago. They did mention
No, but mentioning it is one thing, but building the match from that is a different thing. And of course, you had is
that the one where Wyndham came out as Sting?
Yeah, that was 1990.
They didn't mention that. I was waiting for that.
Yeah,
so Wyndham must have been the Widowmaker at that point up in WCW or WWE.
No, I mean he was there in 1993, even in WCW. But I don't want to get into the logistics.
He was there?
Yeah, he was there.
Oh wow!
It's funny. That's why I'm just saying they didn't really build on this match that had a lot of and of course your greatest vignette of all time with Sting, Bulldog, Sid Vicious and Vader on the beach and they blow up the boat and all this stuff. You build on this rivalry. You build on this heat that they have between each other, TW. I thought this is to me, I'm going to look at it from 2020 Wonder eyes, TW, and I'm trying to be nice here, but I think this is a filler match. These two did not need to be on the card here. You really just trying to throw something at it, throw something on the wall and see if it sticks. In my humble opinion, this could have been a better match. Like you said, mismanagement. What say you, TW?
I'm going to tell you what I think they did. They knew if they kept harping on the world title, they're going to remind the people that this ain't a world title match. There's two more world title matches to come because they got two world titles, and neither one of these guys are in it. So if you talk about that too much, it makes it look like neither one of them matter anymore. They were trying to put the emphasis on whoever wins this match will be the face of WCW, the franchise. So they were trying to make that more important. Not necessarily more important than a world title, but the focus on this match. Like Sting takes pride in being the franchise and the face of WCW. And yes, it would have been a name alone that Sid called himself the franchise or whatever. It's a weird thing to fight over, right? Like, that's like, come on, dude. People aren't going to just stop. Oh, Sting lost. We got to cheer for Sid now. People aren't that damn stupid in the South, but
well, sometimes they are. Sometimes they are. I'm just saying.
They felt probably like they had to mention that they fought for the world title before, but that's it. Because if you keep harping on it, it's like, oh, yeah, these guys aren't world title contenders anymore. And we got 4 of those tonight. We got 4 guys fighting for world titles. But I just think they were just trying to put the emphasis on their personal feud, not prestige.
Well, being a franchise is prestige.
No, I mean, the world title would be the highest up the food chain.
I get it.
You don't even have to have yeah, but he wants to take that from Sting. That's the personal part of it. Whereas world champion, I don't want you to be world champion because I want to be the world champion. It's different. You know what I mean? He doesn't necessarily want to be the franchise. He just wants to say, Sting, you're not the franchise anymore because I beat you.
Okay, now I'm going to say this for all the Reflectionites. Again, I'm doing this from my 2020 Wonder Eyes Reflectionites, so I guess maybe I'm really going to grill on this pay-per-view a little different way. But again, we get the logistics, TW, and we get why this match has to happen. To me, I thought they could have made it better. They could have built it better, but that's neither here nor there. But you said it. Sid Vicious just has it. But that doesn't mean he has it in the ring.
Right.
He has it when it comes to promos. He has it when it comes...
Hogan didn't have it in the ring either, so...
Yeah, I think that's debatable, and I will give you some Japanese tapes to prove you wrong, and I will give you WrestleMania 6 to prove you wrong again. I guess it must be the dance partner, but I will say this. Sid has it
Macho Man or Warrior?
Warrior.
Come on.
Yes.
It's a good match. It ain't no damn clinic.
I ain't saying it's a clinic, but I say it's
I'll give you Halloween Havoc with Hogan and Warrior.
Wait,
puke in your mouth.
I'm trying to be fair, Hale. To be fair.
I know.
Sid Vicious comes out of the curtain. Everybody, all eyes are on Sid Vicious. But once that bell rings, sometimes where Sid's attributes, his positive attributes, when it's a tag team, he's good. Being in that ring, and for the little maybe like 30 minutes that he's going to be there, he's a killer. But you're going to ask him to go 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Sid Vicious's weaknesses really come out. Agree, disagree?
Absolutely. And you put Hogan in there for 15 minutes, so the Warrior in there for 15 minutes. Damn near put Sting in there for 15 minutes. Yes, he did 60 minutes with Ric Flair, but that's where you got to give credit to Ric Flair saying, do this, do that, do this. Don't do that again. Do this. So really, it takes 2 to tango. And all the times that Sid's been in there, he's in there with guys who aren't the guys who are going to take you 60 minutes. And again, if you were going to say Hogan Warrior from WrestleMania 5, all credit goes to Savage. I've always said...
How you give Savage credit in a match that he's not in it for WrestleMania 6?
5, Hogan versus
6.
Warrior? I mean, Hogan, WrestleMania 5 is Hogan Savage.
Right.
Yeah. I'm saying if that was the match you were referencing as a good match, Savage gets all the credit, right?
I'll give you that. But he's meticulous.
Hogan's 4-minute matches where he punched you, clotheslined you, threw you in the corner and clotheslined you one more time, and then hit you with the boot to the face and the leg. Someone told him to do those moves, and he did them well, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But you start going in the business for yourself and doing other stuff, it's not working. And then, basically the same thing for Sid. No one ever did that for Sid. By the time Sid comes around, guys aren't saying, stick on these 5 moves. They're just going there, go out there and do roll-ups. But, look what happened to Sid. One of the most iconic moments in Nitro history is that ankle where that dude falls over like a tree because Sid's probably hearing all this shit on the internet like, damn it, you can't go. He's like, oh, yeah, watch this. I'm going to do a double axe handle, bitch. I'm not ever doing that again. So, but
well,
he used
if Hogan,
he used to tell guys go
Mhm.
when he did the
Right.
choke slam. That's so.
right. If Hogan got his 4 moves of doom, then Sid has the 3 moves of doom: a clothesline, a choke slam, and a powerbomb, because that's all he really offered in this match. Sting wins this match, TW, but it really, and with a roll up, Reflection
That is
Nights,
a good finish, though. That's a good finish.
No. I'm not
Not the
disputing.
roll up.
Yeah.
What set up the roll up?
Right. What set up the roll? I'm just reminding Reflectionites, because when you're mad about the roll ups in WWE, I just wanted to know this is cyclical. Again, that word. This is 1993, and 28 years later, we still are doing the same damn things. Roll ups work. That's all I'm going to say. But anyway, neither here nor there. But in this match, the funny thing is Colonel Robert Parker is really trying to interject himself here, TW. And it cost Sid Vicious, I guess, that title as being the franchise, as being the icon of WCW. And that's where the roll-up really works here. But, the funny thing is
Here's
that...
what you got to explain something to me.
Go ahead.
In the replay even, it looks like, because in case people didn't watch it, Sting is pinning Sid, and Colonel Robert Parker's holding Sid's leg like he thinks it stings.
Mm-hmm.
But Sid still kicked out. And then looked at Robert Parker like, hey, man, that's my leg. And he goes, oh, because he's still holding it. And that's how Sting got the roll-up, was them two. And then they teased the breakup, probably to see if the crowd would cheer Sid. And they did. And they didn't do the damn breakup. But why did he kick out? That would have been fine for him to just lose that way. Like, your own manager cost you. His interference backfired because he thought he was holding Sting's leg and held yours. It almost makes it look like when Warrior loses to Rude the exact same way, but Bobby Heenan's holding Warrior's leg. It makes every other person that got pinned that way look bad. Not that people even cared or thought about that, but Sid kicking out of it made no damn sense. He should have just got pinned that way, if you ask me.
I'll look at it as a fan, not as a man in the business, or maybe a little bit of both. Think about it this way, TW. Maybe I'm going to go with the Hulk Hogan doesn't work for me, brother, kind of angle. Maybe he didn't want to do it that way. Maybe he thought in a different light, it could have been a better roll-up or a better finish in his eyes. And he did what he had to do, but he made it plain as day to WCW management, maybe to Dusty Rhodes, Bill Watts, Eric Bischoff, whoever's the powers that be behind the scenes. I ain't doing it the way you want me to do it. I'm going to do it my own way. And if it looks stupid to people watching it, so what? Because the funny thing about this, he's not here. He's not in WCW for another month or more. Then he's gone. He's gone.
Oh, okay. That's where he was at ECW?
No. He's gone. I think he left a little bit and then went back to WWE as Psycho Sid. So that's the thing. So TW, do you think that assessment is more of the way?
I think if I'm Sid, I'd rather lose because one guy's pinning my shoulders and the other guy's holding my legs before I got rolled up.
Mm-hmm.
I get the roll up. The roll up is a thing of like a gotcha. You know what I mean? But the gotcha is more embarrassing than being pinned because your manager's holding your leg down. Then it looks completely like it's not your fault. When you get rolled up, it's because you took your eye off the prize, and now you just got rolled up and you lost. So I don't think he chose the roll up over the pin with Parker holding his leg, unless you said he's like, yeah, fuck this, watch this, I'm gonna do it this way instead. Like, but it made him look bad in my eyes.
Yeah, it made him. Again, it's bad for business. The way he went, maybe he went into business for himself to do a finish that it just didn't make sense to a lot of people. But Sting did what he had to do. He did what he was told to do. Again, Mr. Loyalty, Mr. WCW. So the franchise. He made lemonade out of lemons on this situation, and it worked. And again, like I said, for Reflectionites that didn't know that he would leave WCW in November of '93 after an angle with Big Van Vader, but we don't have to go into that, TW. Again, it's contracts, it's politics, mismanagement, again, with WCW and the hierarchy. So, again, we prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, we got some A players. We got some all-star players here. They just don't know.
There's another match on this card.
What?
We blew by. It's not one of the big ones, but just that the idea in 1987 that these two guys would wrestle each other would have been like fucking nut in your pants type shit to a kid in WWE world. Is Steamboat versus Mr. Wonderful on the undercard. And then there's Bulldog versus Regal for the TV title on the undercard. So there's tons of guys that we didn't even talk about who's on this roster. And the reason I bring up Steamboat and Wonderful is I'm watching it. I'm going, who's winning this? And all my money would have been on Orndorff losing clean, and I would have lost it because Orndorff won by countout because Jody Hamilton, the masked assassin, put the loaded thing in his hat and headbutted Steamboat, and Steamboat did the white meat babyface thing to do where he tried to get in that ring and he just came short of it instead of just laying dead on the floor. He gave the fans reason to cheer for him. But
he offered the drama. He offered the drama, as you would say.
This finish, and again, this is why, and the reason I'm bringing all these up is this is why I'm calling it a trick. The Austin finish is confusing. The damn finish, this Sid and Sting's finish is basically the same as Austin and Rhodes, other than Sid didn't pin him first. But it's the exact same finish. Distracted, rolled up. Steamboat getting counted out instead of just getting pinned. And he took the pile driver and kicked out. So that's how I was going to tell you earlier, that's how you know it's not a Bill Watts pay-per-view because the pile driver wasn't illegal. And there was no disqualification for throwing the guy over the top rope. That opening match was terrible. And then there's two more matches coming where there's another stupid finish coming up. Well, and then the last one is just the most confusing of all to me. You're just gonna have to walk me through it because I will
do my best. But we getting into the co-main events here. This one is for the WCW International Heavyweight Championship. And why is it called that, Reflectionites? Is because the relationship, the working partnership between NWA and WCW fizzled in September of 1993. So they had to rebrand Ric Flair's big gold belt into the WCW International Heavyweight Championship to give it credence, to give it prestige and all that stuff. But everybody knows Ric Flair's big gold belt is the NWA belt, is the WCW belt no matter what. It's not international. It's not universal. It's not galactic. It is the WCW Heavyweight Championship. So Ric Flair is trying to regain that title against ravishing Rick Rude. And, you know, TW, the funny thing where this all started, and it's so simplistic that, you know, we love it. You know, sometimes AEW just throws matches, you know, on the wall and see if it sticks because, you know, you got hardcore fans that just wants to see the matches. They really don't want to see a build. They really don't want to see a storyline. But this match and this rematch for the WCW International Heavyweight Championship started from a talk show. Flair from the Goal, you know, where Rick Rude wanted to get the digits from Ric Flair's personal valet or personal waitress or whatever it was, or personal maid, Fifi. So Fifi and current wife in 2020 Wonder, who got her box, you know, licked on the plane, and that was a meme for about weeks. But anyway, neither here nor there.
But that wasn't really him, you know that.
No, I know. I know it wasn't him, but that was a funny thing, and I was running along with that shit. But TW, it's so simplistic that you start off with a talk show. Rick Rude is the man he is. He's a player. He goes after women across the country. He spots Fifi. He eyes Fifi. He wants to get with Fifi. And Ric Flair is playing the gentleman, the man who's going to defend Fifi's honor. It might be hokey for people, but it's so simplistic, and it gives you reason here. And, of course, Rick Rude defeated Ric Flair on the pay-per-view before it in Fall Brawl to become the heavyweight champion. So this is a rematch. So you already got a build of a rivalry. What say you, TW?
It's Steamboat. I keep going back to Steamboat, man. I think I'm losing my mind. It's Flair Savage. Elizabeth was mine before she was yours all over again, but Flair's the good guy. It's Flair's woman, and he's trying to take this, thus proving what? IWC, this WC. Everything you ever see on wrestling, you will see again, and you will have seen before because it's silica. Everything comes back, and this angle and it's a year after Flair and Savage did it the opposite way with Flair as the Rick Rude of the match.
The antagonist.
They traded world title wins amongst each other. So it's now they just did it in another company with a different opponent, and Flair became the babyface. Which, by the way, watching this match, Flair as a babyface does not work. It does in WWE when he comes back for that last run where you sympathize for him. And it's funny because I watch him in this match, and I think there's a couple times he tries being Ricky Morton, like trying to get that underdog heat. But the problem is he's twice Ricky Morton's size, and he's bigger than Rick Rude, but not taller, so it doesn't work. And you know how he likes to beg off? Like, no, don't do that. He was still doing that as a babyface. So, for people to say Ric Flair is the greatest of all time, I'll say this. You're wrong, and it's okay. Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels are two guys who could wrestle heel and were heel, or wrestle babyface and were babyface. It didn't matter what role they were, they played it. And Ric Flair as a babyface does not work. Now, I do have a question for you because it had to have been a mistake. And if it wasn't, then where the hell have I been? They said Ric Flair won his first world title from Dusty Rhodes in 1979. And I'm like, bullshit. He wasn't world champion in the 70s. He was world champion like 83, 82, whatever. Maybe 81.
81. I remember 81.
Harley. Wasn't it Harley that he beat to win the first world title? Or was it Dusty?
No, it was Dusty.
So Dusty and Flair were fighting for the world title before Flair fought Harley. Wow, that's insane. But it wasn't 1979.
Yeah, it wasn't 79. He might have been fighting for that in the 70s. He was the U.S. champion in the 70s. Right. He was, all that other,
and that's territorial. Post plane crash. Plane crash 74, something like
73 or 74.
I was going to say 73, but that's the year I was born. But I was thinking it was the year after I was born. But yeah, I'm like, he didn't win a world title in 1979. They were all in the 80s.
Yeah, it was all the 80s. But,
81.
Who said it, Jesse Ventura or Tony Schiavone?
Tony said it.
And you know why? Right. He was dressed as Jesse, and then, that plastic thing he was covering, the rubber head, it was covering his brain cells. So he did not know what he was talking about. But anyway, neither here nor there. Now, the funny thing about this match, TW, there was two referees here. So you was trying to talk about that situation, and here's the situation. Terry Taylor, I don't know why he was here. He had no stake in the claim, but, you always loved Terry Taylor, so, I know you popped your chair.
He did that throwback Madison Square Garden referee outfit, too, eh?
Yeah, he did that. But there was two referees. Terry Taylor was the enforcer on the outside, and, of course, it was Randy Pee Wee Anderson on the inside, TW, and Terry Taylor was a little bit biased, I guess you would say. He wanted one Rick to really win, and that was Ric Flair. He wanted Ric Flair to become the heavyweight champion again. So, and it played its role at the end where Ric Flair was going to do his cheating. The good guy is cheating with brass knuckles in his trunks. It's not a good look. Like you said, he doesn't know how to wrestle as a babyface. He knows how to wrestle as a heel. So he uses the brass knucks. He hits Rick Rude. We think he's going to be a champion for maybe the 11th time. I forget the number.
It was 11. They said 10 during the match.
It was going to be the 11th time heavyweight champion. But Randy Pee Wee Anderson, who was brought outside for some strange, this is now old 80s booking, which I had no problem with. Somehow, some way, he got to look like this. Reflectionites. He was on the apron like this. He looked, and then he saw what Ric Flair did. Terry Taylor didn't see shit, but Terry Taylor was about to pin him down.
And Terry Taylor, at one point in the match, I think it was Flair, was holding the ropes, and Terry pushed his hands, and then he got rolled into the sunset flip. I think it was Flair that he did that too. So to show his unbiased, right? Like, I might want Flair to win, but I'm going to call it down the middle.
Yeah, well, that's what he was trying to say. So, TW, I think the referee play out here was excellent in the professor's humble opinion. And of course, you was already going gaga over Terry Taylor. So, don't you wish it was he had the Red Rooster referee suit on or whatever?
I choose to forget the Red Rooster year. That ruined his career.
I know, we know that.
He's never going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's never going to be.
Well, he might never. Well, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. No. He's
going to the damn Red Rooster.
He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. It might not be WWE, but he's in the Pro Wrestling Illustrated Hall of Fame, the Aftermath Hall of Fame.
He's probably in the Impact Hall of Fame because they made a Legends figure of him. That's the only other figure he's got. It looks nothing like him. But he I like this look here. I didn't get why he was there. And 93, this is a month before I started training to wrestle, so I don't know why. I know when I was a kid, I didn't buy pay-per-views. I know that much. But, you'd still get to see the results on Saturday night and then whenever Nitro started or whatever. But this match for me, as I'm watching it, very similar to how I felt with Steamboat versus Savage or Steamboat versus Orndorff, was like, wow, this is like This isn't even a dream match because they were both baby faces when they were there at the same time. Orndorff was Hogan's best friend and then turned heel on him. And at the same time, well, it was 86.
They fought each other in WWF in the same contrast. You know, Orndorff was a heel and Steamboat was the
right, but I don't
face.
remember it. And it would have been like primetime wrestling. They didn't have a run. You know, they didn't have a feud, if you will.
Okay,
Because his feuds were with Jake the Snake. They were with Macho Man. They were with one other one. Because both of those guys put him in the hospital. Don Morocco hanging him. I think Hercules, he had a feud with Hercules or... So, but he just never had a program with Orndorff, and but they were both two of my favorite dudes there, man. I mean, Paul Orndorff was He-Man. I say it a million times. That dude looked like the action figure of He-Man was in a wrestling ring, and so to watch that. But now Rick Rude versus Flair, what I'm thinking is, I don't remember Flair or Rude ever being a babyface in WWE, but I think he was for a minute in WCW, but not long.
No.
Wasn't he before he became Rick Rude and Manny Fernandez became the R&R Express?
No, Rick Rude has been,
career heel?
He's been a career heel, but I'll give you this. Maybe in Mid-South, in the Tennessee area, I'll say I don't know Rick Rude's pedigree of being a heel or face there. Maybe there's that
But the big two, he was heel the whole time and world class.
Yes.
Oh, so he's the Steamboat of heels. Steamboat was always a babyface. So watching him versus Flair, there's an old wrestling aftermag article, the night the fans booed everybody. And you know what the match was? The fact, Bill Apter, Rick Ray, I want you to play this for Bill Apter because I hope Bill Apter had a hand in this article. Maybe he didn't, but he at least printed it. It said the night the fans booed everybody, and it was either Madison Square Garden or Boston Garden, one of them, mainstays of the WWE circuit. It was the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov versus the Dream Team. And if I'm not mistaken, nobody cared. And this is why you didn't have heel versus heel matches. Because if the fans aren't behind somebody, they don't give a shit about the match. They will not watch it. They will not care. They will throw stuff in the ring. I don't remember the whole article. I just remember that. And then it dawned on me, wow, yeah, you never, because you, as a kid, you don't realize there's lines in the sand, that there's bad guys and good guys. You knew the Heenan family was together. You knew the Hart family was together. You knew Fuji stable was together. But you didn't realize they were all together. And in the back of your head, you probably thought, because they would show little Mean Gene interviewing Heenan, and him and Fuji would give each other the evil eye. Like, you would think, shit, we're going to get Morocco versus John Studd. But you never did, right? They implied it. But at the end of the day, bad guys fought good guys fought bad guys. That's how it was. And then there was a match in the King of the Ring, which is the opposite of the night the fans booed everybody. It was Ricky Steamboat versus Davey Boy Smith. And Davey Boy Smith drop-kicked Steamboat and missed. Steamboat got out of the way, and he crotched himself on the rope with a drop kick. I've never seen it before. I haven't seen it since. And he couldn't continue, and Steamboat felt bad for him or whatever. That was the same King of the Ring that Dynamite Kid beat Nikolai Volkov with the missile drop kick while he was singing the Russian national anthem.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
Well, it was in the King of the Ring. It was the Wrestling Classic. But,
the Wrestling Classic. But it's a great Coliseum home video if you can get your hands on it. I'm sure it's on the network, Peacock. But that match there showed you there just was no heat from the crowd. Babyface versus babyface. And then look, Hogan Rock, Toronto, Hogan Warrior, Toronto. The fans are literally split down the middle. And in the Hogan Rock case, they turned on the Rock and went full Hogan, because you had babyface versus babyface. And Hogan was a tweener when he wrestled the Rock, but everybody knew Hogan was getting cheered.
I know where you're going with this. And besides the Dream Team and Nikolai Volkov and Iron Sheik, WWE is good with the heel against heel or the face against face because of the theatrics and what it's, before something that starts. If they build it up, they build it better. South never does that. South just, if a heel fights a heel,
each other for that belt, and that belt's the only reason they're fighting each other.
It would be
Flair's
that.
A good guy, just doesn't work, man.
No, it would be that, or just the battle royal where you just see it for a couple of seconds where a heel fights a heel.
That's testing. That's 1,000% testing. See who gets the bigger. I told you, Luger and Razor Ramon at the Palace of Auburn Hills. They had them do something to Bret Hart that backfired, and then the next 5 minutes was them standing off and almost a yay boo, but they didn't do the yay boo because they're both heel. You know what the yay boo is, right?
Yes.
And they did it, and the crowd was split down the middle. 2 weeks later, both of them turned babyface because they're testing the waters to see who's going to get the fans behind them. So like you said, they do it better because they invest more time in doing it. But I don't know how you felt, but my whole point of bringing all that up was I just felt like the crowd didn't care about this. The crowd felt flat for this match. It felt like they didn't care who won. And then
you know why?
The finish was another screw job, and nobody cared.
I think there was I think the placement of this match, because this was before the main event, which was a non-title match, which made no sense. This is for the heavyweight championship, and in the cardinal rule in my opinion is the heavyweight championship should end any match. You have a WCW any pay-per-view. You have the WCW International Heavyweight Championship. This should end your pay-per-view. This should end your your main event.
You know what's funny about that?
What?
Is you're going to call it a world title? An international title. Well, which one is it? International sounds like the Intercontinental title of Europe. Is what it sounds like. They said it over and over again. On a tour of Europe, and that belt's going to be on it. Like, that's where it gets defended, is on that side of the world. So therefore, it's not a world title. And then they say, but Vader's going to be there with the WCW world title. It's just like, God, it's a struggle. They should have just merged the belts.
They're trying to save face, and they did merge it in '94, but we don't have to get into that. But before we get to the main event reflection, I just want to say one thing. In my opinion, that Rick Rude doesn't get a lot of credit. In my opinion, TW. I know I'm not talking about this match. I'm just talking about Rick Rude's contribution to WCW. WCW was in the shitter.
Yeah.
In many ways, even visually. I'm not talking about management, but it was in the shitter. And when Rick Rude came in 91, Naughty One, whatever you want to call it, he saved WCW because he injected something because Sting needed to. Not only star power, but Sting needed an antagonist. Luger was leaving. There was and Flair wasn't there. There was nobody, and Vader wasn't the Vader that we know by 93. So you needed some, like you said, I like that word, star power. Rick Rude saved WCW from the total abysmal. That's just the way I look at it. I don't think Rick Rude gets enough credit for what he did from 91 to 94.
And I'm sticking to it. JB, if you listen to this in Purgatory, Rick Rude is in the conversation for one of the best to never be world heavyweight champion, if not the best, because he was never world champion.
But he just had, he just fought.
So that belt's because Ric Flair brought it back. That's why he had that.
It was NWA. I'm just saying, it was NWA heavyweight champion.
Yeah, and then they went to WWE, and then they made a new WCW belt, and the NWA belt was dead. He's never world champion. He's a Intercontinental champion, one of the greatest of all time.
World-class heavyweight champion. He was.
A world title.
How you
not a world title.
You're too picky. You're too picky.
There are 3 world titles.
Okay.
WWF, NWA, AWA. Those were the world titles. That's it. You're going to say world class is a world title? Then so was UWF.
It was.
No,
yes, it was. It was.
No, it was not. It's my favorite promotion of all time.
Don't disrespect Dr.
They didn't even merge that belt with the WCW. They just let it go. They merged it with the Western States Heritage title.
Well, you know what, TW, Reflectionites, he has his axes to grind, but, there were world heavyweight champions. We all recognize certain world heavyweight champions, but I just want to give props where props are due for ravishing.
I got a question for you.
Shoot.
ECW was it a world title?
Of course.
No, it's not. No, it's
yes,
not.
It is. Yes, it is.
Yes. If the world was Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh.
That's a big
world.
That's a big world. That matters.
Internet world.
It matters.
Airplane world.
it matters. But anyway, let's get into the main event here for Halloween Havoc 1993. It is one of the favorite concepts of TW. Spin the wheel, make the deal. Big Van Vader is the WCW Heavyweight Champion, but he's not defending the title because it's a non-sanctioned match. Being represented by Harley Race, the manager of champions, one of the most underrated managers because all he kept managing was heavyweight champions. Going up against...
Stiff DDT.
going up against Cactus Jack. So, again, we don't have to go into the stuff where the European tour, the ear is cut off and all that stuff. And, this was Dusty's idea of trying to humanize Cactus Jack, being the lovable, human daredevil with what he was doing, because it was a good approach by Dusty Rhodes to try to draw empathy for what Cactus Jack's body was putting, he was putting a toll on his body. And Dusty Rhodes really wanted to focus on the empathy from the crowd, and it worked, because by then he gets this main event slot here at Halloween Havoc 1993. Again, I wish that they would rig the spin the wheel, make the deal a little bit better. 2 years in a row. The first one was a coal miner's glove match, and the people in Philadelphia hated that concept. This time they thought they hit a home run, but again, trick or treat TW. It was a Texas death match TW. So
you don't honestly think you didn't know both of those matches before they got to the building that day?
They didn't.
Did you watch that wheel spin?
Yes, I did. It
passed Texas Death and went back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Momentum. They knew it was a Texas Death match.
I think the first wheel in '92 between Jake Roberts and Sting, that was actually off the cuff. It was a shoot. They did not know. They didn't rig the wheel better.
Right.
93, they made sure to rig the wheel better. So I guess a Texas Death match made all the sense in the world. And TW,
I kept trying to see if there was a steel cage up in the roof like they do where they lower them down. I never saw a steel cage. So if it would have landed on steel cage, you think they would have took an hour to put that sumbitch up after Ric Flair versus Rick Rude?
No, they wouldn't have done
exactly. That match was booked to be a Texas Death match. And I'll bet you they thought that coal miner glove match was going to be some hot shit. Oh, that is new shit. No, no, it wasn't. It was drizzling shit.
Now, I may be the professor, but, Texas Death matches, the rules change depending on who you...
That's why I got confused from the start of that match on. I'm like, what? This is Falls Count Anywhere match. Just get up to a 10 count, but then they're pinning each other. Then I thought it was an Iron Man, man. Like, how many pins have there been?
That's what it was.
Area. I'm like, what the fuck is the rest area? I'm like, what is happening here?
So while you say that they rigged the wheel for Texas Death Match, it wasn't a Texas Death Match. It was every other match concept on the wheel that they added into without the coal miner's glove. Yeah, so cage. I think Reflectionites, if you go on the Peacock and watch this, you'll understand where we were confused, because this is not a traditional Texas Death Match.
This is a Texas Death Match. It's in the ring, and then you get knocked, like boxing. It was like boxing. You got knocked out, and you had 10 seconds to get up. I do recall maybe once or twice a guy tapped out or got pinned, and then he had 10 seconds to get up, and he got up, right? That was the saving grace. I tapped out, so I had energy to stand up. But they weren't fighting in the damn ramp, in the crowd, and they fought in the damn ring. This was an anything goes match without pinballs.
This was
had pinballs.
But this is the funny thing. This was not a Texas Death Match. This was a 2 out of 3 falls match too, because there was 3 considerable falls. Cactus Jack won a fall, Vader won a fall, and of course Vader wins at the end.
His pins. So that's why there was a rest, because one of them won.
Right,
that's what confused me.
Again, I guess depending on the promotion, a Texas Death Match is interpreted in many different ways. So it should just have been called a death match. You added Texas. Maybe that's why you and me, TW, are used to certain rules in a Texas Death Match, because, Dusty Rhodes, and Terry Funk, king of the Texas Death Matches. Would you agree or disagree on that one? Those are the guys. Or the Von Erichs doing a Texas Death Match. That's where it makes sense. This is not a Texas Death Match. But anyway, Vader wins this match, and it's not about him winning the match. I think, again, Dusty Rhodes' mindset to me, TW, is trying to build the empathy card, trying to build sympathy towards Cactus Jack in a losing effort. Yes, thank you very much. I knew I was right. I knew I was making sense about something here. That's where I'm going with TW. What do you say? What did you get out of this match for Cactus Jack? We know that Big Van Vader, again, international superstar, one of the best gaijins from New Japan, All Japan Pro Wrestling history. He's a Hall of Famer over there for a reason. He dominated the Japanese scene. He put Antonio Inoki on his ass.
It's stiff.
It was stiff too.
I tell this story all the time. We can't talk about Vader and me now, but there were 3 guys willing to work with him in WCW at one point. Cactus Jack was one of them. Davey Boy Smith and Sting. Those were the only 3 guys. And then Ron Simmons like, I'll do it. And they put the belt on him. So guys just would not work him because he was so stiff. And I think I told the story here before where the Bulldog did an interview, and he's like, I think it was a WWE match. He kept, Leon, ease up. And Leon didn't ease up, and Bulldog just forearmed the shit out of him and jumped on his ribs like Finn Balor's move, but like jumped on his ribs. And everyone says Vader was a sweetheart of a human being. Like, he wouldn't like hurt a fly, but he could. Right. Like almost Frankensteinish. I think I told you this when I was at that Great American Bash. Him and Haku were in the damn end of the aisle in a lockup, collar and elbow tie-up for about half the show. Just sumoing in the corner, and everyone would just look down the hallway and go, yeah, that's just those guys being those guys. But Cactus Jack, here's why this is a trick. Steve-O gets counted out, get beat. Sid gets rolled up so he doesn't get beat. Stone Cold gets rolled up so he doesn't get beat. And now Cactus Jack, I still don't know how the hell he lost. I think he got cattle prodded. They stole the Mounties cattle prod. They just wouldn't say it was a cattle prod for gimmick infringements. And all of these, if you're so worried about saving the fucking loser,
it was a stun gun, yes.
Don't have him wrestle the match. Have Vader pin someone that you don't care if he gets beat, because in the end, it makes you all 3 champions won by losing. Got pinned. No, you're disqualified, Flair. And Flair's like, that's all he kept saying. Sid loses. He doesn't have a belt. Sting beats him, but Sid beat himself. And then Dustin shouldn't have left there as champion. Vader shouldn't have left there as champion because he got pinned by Cactus Jack, but it doesn't count as non-title anyway. Just this whole show was just, let's protect everybody. And by protecting everybody, we just made a big giant bowl of Dusty Rhodes schnoz finishes. And it was just, it's bad because nobody wins. No one left there feeling good about Sting having to beat Sid because his manager held his leg first, right? Maybe that's the logic. Well, he kicked out of that, but then Sting still got him with the roll-up. No! Sting only got him with the roll-up because he was distracted with his manager who held his leg. And Steve Austin flat out beat Dustin. And then they were like, nah, I think his foot was on the rope. And then he gets rolled up, but he's not paying. So, if anything, they're trying to protect guys, makes them look better than their actual champions. So just put the damn belt on them. And then...
So in essence, TW.
Match.
Wait.
Tag belts.
So in essence, TW, Dusty Rhodes overthought everything to try to protect everybody and make it everybody as equal as possible.
Looked bad. That's why 93 they never caught up with WWF. They never had decisive wins. Everybody screwed everybody. Baby faces couldn't even win clean. Flair's pulling out brass knucks. I think he got them from somewhere. I don't know. But then there's a tag title match on there. 1 night earlier. Too Cold Scorpio and Buff Bagwell won the tag belts from the Nasty Boys and then lose them right back the next day. It's like another snaz finish. Missy Hyatt distracts him. Knobbs hits him with the boot. Everybody loses in some. Nobody just wins other than the opening match. That we now figure out why the opening match happened. And Bulldog and Regal, that's another title match. Went the 10-minute draw. TV title on the line on a pay-per-view. By the way, that's not TV. And usually it's TV time remaining. It's the third match, and there's 2 hours left in the show. Shouldn't the match still be going on until one of them wins because it's TV time remaining?
It should be 30 minutes on a pay-per-view, but neither here nor there on the logistics. But they didn't do it.
Or 60, because on TV, a show is 60 minutes. So, theory. But it's just everything about this. There's no clear-cut winners other than, and of course, Booker T had to take the pin from Uncle Fred. It's just like everything about this is wrong. You got so much talent, so much potential, and every single match has a schmoz finish, and that's why I said it was a trick. I literally got done at the end of this going, man, this had so much potential to be better, and it just wasn't.
Well, it was in 1989, which was the best Halloween Havoc out of the whole franchise. I don't know if you've...
Is that the Battle Bowl one or
it was Muda, Sting, Flair, and Funk in the Thunderdome. Besides the faux pas of the electricity, but that was the best one out of it. I don't know how you feel.
You stole that spot.
I don't know how you feel about the NXT Halloween Havocs, but we don't have to go with that. But anyway,
they've had them before.
Yeah, last year they had NXT Halloween Havoc. Oh, you didn't even know about that.
I don't even remember. I bet you I saw it, but I don't remember it.
I guess it wasn't that memorable or that good. So, and they're gonna have a Halloween Havoc in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know. I was stoked for it. I'm wondering how they're even going to pull the War Games off. They're going to have 2 guys and 2 girls. You know what I read the other day? Stunned me. Because I have yet to see a War Games match that I didn't like, other than the women's. And it's not because they were women, just because the match sucked. Especially when it ended up being 4-on-3 because the other girl turned. No, 4-on-2, and the 2 won. It was Candace and Shotzi, I think, won when Tegan Knox got knocked out by...
Dakota Kai.
And Dakota never, the whole thing was, and the one with 3 teams was kind of weird, but it still was a good match, good finish. Johnny Gargano has never been in a War Games. That's a travesty. That is a absolute travesty.
Well, I want to say this, and then we'll close this out because War Games and NXT won't happen this year to me because there's not enough star power to do it.
Right. They're going to do one. They're going to do one if they got to bring guys back. Remember, they brought Kevin Owens back for one.
Yeah, but then it won't really be authentic to me if you have to bring back for star power.
They should have had the Way versus another 4, 2 guys, 2 girls, where the girls fought in this ring and the guys fought in this ring.
Well, we'll see what they do. But anyway, that is
done.
Well, with that being said, TW, we close out this PWR podcast here at the PWR Networks at podbeam.com. I guess on the finality, it is a trick that it is Halloween Havoc 1993. So, but I'm going to give you a treat next week, TW, because we're going to do a spotlight. We are going to go back to doing a spotlight. And it's going to be in the essence of Halloween because it is a treat. What are we going to spotlight on, TW? It's not a person. It's not a manager. It's not a tag team. It's a concept, TW. The steel cage match. We're going to talk about the greatest steel cage matches that you and I have ever seen. We're going to talk about them all. We're going to talk about WWE blue steel cage matches. We're going to talk about the NWA steel cage matches with the referee inside the ring. We might even talk about War Games. We might talk about Tower of Doom. We might talk about Hell in a Cell. But if there's a cage and there's a fence, Reflectionists, we're going to talk about it. But we're going to highlight and spotlight the steel cage concept. What do you think about that? Is that a treat?
Like it. Top of your head, when you said the best of the best, I know what popped in my head. What popped in yours?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna be an old head here. Snuka Morocco, one of the best steel cage matches.
Owen Brett popped in my head.
There you go. See, that's what it is. And people might go with, well, what about Mick Foley?
That's fence, and that's blue steel.
But, again, Reflectionites, I know you're going to say, what about Mankind and Undertaker? We'll talk about that. Again, if there's a fence, Tully and Mac, if there's a fence,
worst ones.
well, we'll talk about that. Save that for next week, TW. So, TW, give out those socials so we can get out of here.
All right. So we're part of the Pro Wrestling Coalition Network. That's PWC Network at podbean.com. Obviously, we're at PW Reflection on the Twitter. JB, I said I wasn't going to do it, but I mentioned you earlier, so I'm going to do it one more time. At VP1JB, at Big Ray Hernandez. We can't do any of this without him. He's already plugging this show while we're recording. He's got comments and likes on a Halloween Havoc post on the Facebook page.
He got giddy. He got giddy because he got giddy because I picked this. So I guess he's very happy that it
which
did.
Also I never talk about. There is a pro wrestling, the PW Hustle page, and the Pro Wrestling Reflection is PW Hustle 2, I think, but you changed it back to Pro Wrestling Reflection page on Facebook. And then you have me, Tommy Wonder 19 is both my Instagram and my political pop hate the people Twitter, but also my talking wrestling music and all good things is at the Tommy Wonder. Facebook.com/Tommy Wonder. Snapchat is #Wonder. I try to get that thing going. It's dead, man. You can't hashtag on there or nothing. It's usually just girls trying to get you to go to their OnlyFans on there. I don't really like Snapchat. But anyways, and then the Big Vito brand, we can't do it without these guys. BigVitoBrand.wixsite.com, Patreon.com/the Big Vito brand. And of course, I'm wearing the hoodie. I'm an idiot. Matt and Stacy are the Dum Dum Duos. Theirs says Dumb and Dumb on theirs. And then that's Dum Dum Duo and Idiot on YouTube. After getting a bunch in a row, we've been slacking for the last couple of weeks. We've both been out of town or whatever. The last one we did was the chocolate-covered Vienna sausages. It's disgusting. But we've gone from hot foods to disgusting foods to stupid foods. And now, you know what? A side note of me doing all this stuff, Professor, I'm not a fan of hot foods, and all my friends now think I am. So people suggest to me hot foods all the time. I'm like, I don't like them. But yesterday I went up to Port Huron, Michigan, met a buddy of mine up there. And what I do now, I'm sure you have Buffalo Wild Wings there. I'm sure Hooters, and Buffalo Wild Wings is called Blazin'. Yeah. Hooters is 3 Mile Island. So now whenever I go somewhere, I have to at least try the hottest one they have on the menu. And the place I found yesterday, it's called Wings Etc. in Port Huron. So if you're in Michigan and you're up in Port Huron, it's about an hour north of here. This is the greatest concept of all times. Every wing place I've ever gone to, you had to get a minimum of 4 of that flavor or 6 of that flavor. This place has a list this long of at least 12, 14 different flavors. You can order 1 of every flavor. You don't have to get 6 of them.
That's a Baskin-Robbins of chicken.
Yeah. And so I got, one was called Major Jerk, which is a Caribbean jerk. That's probably my favorite heat is the Caribbean jerk, where it's got a little bit of kick to it, but it tastes good. Then the other one was called Hey Jerk BBQ or barbecue. Yeah, that one wasn't as good. It was more of a tangy barbecue than a jerk. And then I got the one that was called Wango. They had Wango. They had a
Wango Tango.
And they had one called The Wall.
Oh, boy.
The Wall was habanero. So it was habanero and mango, so they called it Wango. And then the other one was Atomic. I knew Atomic was going to be like Blazin' and 3 Mile Island, which is hot for the sake of being hot, which count me out. All 3 of them were the same heat, and my buddy got the one that was just habanero, and I got the one that was habanero mango. It made me sweat. It was hot as hell, but I enjoyed the taste of it because the mango and the habanero worked well together. My buddy ate just the habanero, which was called The Wall. Had to take his glasses off. His eyes were watering. His whole face was red. His eyes were red. And I'm like, now you see why I got it with the mango in there, because that's the trick. When you eat something hot, you got to have something sweet in there too. So it offsets, like it's not just hot, it's also tastes good. So, and I was drinking beer.
Do you get a discount? Do you get a discount on this?
Oh, I should get a damn. I'm gonna tell you, I plugged you on my podcast. Damn it!
There you go. I'm trying to help you out here.
Again, it was an hour drive, but I would drive there again. On Mondays, it's 99-cent wings, which I still think that's expensive, by the way, $1 for one chicken nugget. But and I get them off the bone, because bone chicken is disgusting. So, but those are all our socials. So now you go ahead and do yours.
Wheeling and dealing. So if you get some free chicken for the professor, let it come out my way. But also I want that money. But anyway, neither here nor there. You can find me on the Twitter at PWSOPROF. That's PWSOPROF. Of course, we are on the PWSO networks on the YouTubes. Follow my brothers in arms, 8-Track Dastardly. That's his Twitter, 8-Track Brown, the king of the reactions. Cobra Kai is coming, Walking Dead, and all that stuff. And of course, the man with the documents, the man who knows that this world is coming to an end, Billy Ray Valentine at Obi When You Know Me. And of course, next week we're going to do the Spotlight, a special Halloween type of edition of Spotlight with the steel cage match concept. For that, I can't wait till next week. I'm the professor. That's Mr. Idiot of the Dum Dum Duo and an Idiot, TW, saying good night, and we will see you next time here on the PWSO Networks at podbeam.com. Say good night, TW.
Hoorah!
Hoorah!